why I always say that sexual freedom is the litmus test for democracy, because when you see the squeeze on sexual speech and sexual freedom, it comes from a place of profound elitism. The elite does not want their sexuality curbed, not in the least. I mean, they are just, it's definitely, the Roman orgy as far as they're concerned. It's everyone else that's supposed to be, kept in chains. And that was a hard thing to admit to myself, but it's the most plausible, realistic explanation for this kind of nonsense. There's no other explanation for it. Oh, thank you. Yes, right in the middle.
So, I don't know if you consider yourself a middle-aged woman now, but...
I'm 53.
Whatever.
No, I'm 35. No. Switch those digits.
How has your sexuality evolved?
How did my sexuality evolve? This sounds like you have something to say on the subject. Give me a glimmer of where you're coming from. How old are you? Older.
16. Familiar with your literature and everything for lesbians and women when I was living in the Bay Area. And so, I mean, I've been acquainted with your work for a long time. And I'm just curious, because you're such a, I don't know, a right-wing sexual person that I admire. And I mean that in the sense that, it's kind of an ironic thing. How we've become more conservative today than where we were, 20, 30 years ago. So I'm just wondering how you are, where you evolved.
Well, there's my intellectual interest, which has just gotten sort of deeper and more eloquent and more empathetic. I really hope that comes through more than anything else in the memoir, is my sense of a kind of, not only is it funny once, it makes you cry once too. I don't feel as brutal on mistakes and regrets as I used to, and I feel more empathy than ever with whatever people are going through. When you said, how old are you? And people are like, well, you're going to be one of those old people who's foolish. There's no fool like an old fool. I'm like, I certainly hope so. I have so many things I haven't experienced quite yet. I was just given last week a giant tube of testosterone cream, and I haven't even had a chance to, you have to apparently titrate up for 2 weeks. And I'm told I'm either going to explode in acne and orgasms or nothing. Really looking forward to the acne. On the other hand, it's interesting, tea cream along with, it's not quite the same as Viagra, but if you just sit around and do your taxes, nothing happens. You have to, when I asked about the tea cream, I said, frankly, if you're reaching between your legs every night with some soft cream, something's going to happen. Is this a placebo effect, or is there really something there? What? Homeopathic. There's homeopathic testosterone cream?
Well, not cream.
Oh. Well, you're going to have to tell me. Somebody bring me a tube of that at the end, too. I'd be very interested. I have another story I'll tell you. When I was in New York, I saw one of my old mentors, Betty Dodson, who wrote the original Liberated Masturbation. It just inspires me constantly. And I did talk to her about, I said, invisibility is very interesting. As a woman, you start to notice, oh, nobody even notices I'm in the room. I'm not here. I'm not getting a certain kind of sexual attention. And the more sexual attention you received as a younger woman because of your looks or your situation, the more vivid it is as that changes. And I asked Betty how she felt about that. And she said, oh, it's great. Now, I have to remember Betty's in her 80s. She said, you get to be the dirty old woman and gawk at everyone. She said, I go on the subway and I just stare at everyone's crotch for as long as I want. turned around and said, "You're a nasty old girl." What are they going to do about it? Yeah, no, this is where this whole worn out slut thing really took off. It's interesting because
Start writing the stories.
probably the most profound thing about aging, I mean, in terms of my thoughts, my politics, whatever, I'm more radical than I ever was. In terms of my flesh, and I'm still, relatively a young person, but one deals with health issues that you didn't have before. I certainly had this moment, I think after my parents died, where I was like, shit, am I going to go into my 50s just hurting all over every day, one of the heart attack crowd in the 50s, or I want to be one of my friends who says, let's go to the mountains, let's roll in the snow, let's go swim in the ocean. I want to have my body. And I did have a little bit of I'd always been such a sedentary girl sloth, and that changed a bit a few years ago. But age is so profound in terms of your health, and yet your mind, it never ends. I mean, it's one of the things that happened to me as I started doing hospice work. You'd be around all these people who were in different stages of dying, and some of them are flying on morphine, and other people are just in bed talking, telling you stories. And the sexual things that people discuss as they're dying are just remarkable. It's like the tongue finally becomes unraveled, and anything goes. No inhibition. And the erotic thoughts, so often I'd be sitting next to someone's bed, and the cheeriest, most kind of freedom from pain, not thinking about anything that was bogging them down or hurting or uncomfortable, was when we were either listening to music or talking about sex. Even after the appetite had gone. It's so profound, it's so essential, the idea that we spend so much time trying to get people to shut up and deny sex when we simply wouldn't be here without it. It always blows my mind. Somebody else back here had their hand up, I think. Go ahead.
What do you think about 14-year-olds grinding on the dance floor?
Oh, that's so funny you say that, because I think I was grinding on the dance floor when I was 14.